Hey guys, I'm Rick and this is Let's Level Up, and today we're going to be talking about Bryan Johnson's Island Fortress. This is published by FrostForge Games and it's a Euro style game, but there's a whole lot more going on than just that. There's a lot of very cool, very interesting mechanics that this is going to make a must play for a lot of tables. This is a Kickstarter success and I strongly recommend you get it on yourself as soon as you can. Let's take a look inside the box and here's our official review. Island Fortress is a very unique game. It combines a lot of different, very interesting, very cool mechanics and wraps them in a very gamer-friendly Euro shell. The main objective of Island Fortress is that you are playing a master builder or an architect hired by a governor of this island to build a fortress. And the first part of this fortress we're going to be building is going to be a wall around the fortress to protect it. This island is not only the home of a giant penal colony, but it's also very rich with jade, which is going to be our primary currency here that we use to buy a lot of different things in the game. Now this is a Euro style game, so essentially what that's going to mean is that we're going to be racing around this track as we collect points. So all of the different players are going to be representative of the governor and are going to be building pieces of this wall for points. And there are several different things that you're going to be able to do throughout the game in order to get points, whether it's actually completing wall segments, completing governor favor cards, or actually acquiring treasure and getting points that way. Either way, the winner is the person with the most points at the end of the game. So I know this is just going to be a general review of the game, but I'd like to give you an idea of how this game plays. Essentially, every round is going to be comprised of 3 different phases. Phase 1 is the income phase, Phase 2 is the petition phase, and Phase 3 is an actual action phase. We'll get into each one of those phases a little bit deeper throughout the video. Right now let's just talk about the general point of the game. As a builder, I'm going to be constructing these tiles and placing them throughout the board. Now I will actually have a few different cards that are going to be governor favor cards. Now this is very simple, similar to the route mechanic in Ticket to Ride. Essentially, if I can complete this favor by combining 3 of my tiles in a row to match this card, I'll get a bonus, either in a form of currency or in victory points. Now the only problem with that is I can only build 2 tiles in one turn. And every other player represents a builder, and they'll be putting their tiles down on their turns, trying to complete their own favor cards. And this could potentially cause us problems as we go through and play our game. And now I'm going to be trying, obviously, to accomplish my favor cards, but so is every other player in the game. This is what's going to bring a very cool, very interesting social dynamic, which is very common in a lot of different Euro-style games. Let's take a closer look at each of the pieces. The game is going to come with 2 bags of jade. Now they're going to be green squares that are larger and smaller. Each of these squares represents either 3 jade or 1 jade accordingly. Jade is going to be the primary income resource in the game and is what you're going to be used to buy a lot of your resources. Now resources are either come in the form of jade, like monetary, or actual physical human capital that you can use. Now human capital comes in 2 different styles. They're both in these wooden blocks. This block are laborers. They represent somebody that's going to help you build the wall and construct it. This block are convicts. Now since this is a penal colony, we have the ability to utilize some of the natural resources of these convicts in building the wall. Only problem is that building a wall on this island is very deadly. Half of the laborers sent to be used are going to be killed during the construction of a wall tile, and all of the convicts being used will be killed. This is something to keep in mind. Where it's easier to get more convicts, it's a little bit harder to keep them if you intend on using them. Now these pieces I think are fine. I think these are good pieces. They're solid, they're easy. Now one of the problems I have with Island Fortress is that there's just a lot of things going on. and thus you have to have a lot of different types of pieces. Not only do you have these resources, but you also have treasure resources and buyback tokens as well. These are going to be representative of getting rewards of completing Governor's Favor and other types of completions as you're building the wall. Now you're going to be able to actually get fortifications as well. Now this is something that's going to happen anytime you complete a favor card. And in that piece of the wall that you are building or completing in that favor, you will put a fortification on there of your choosing. And the thing with the fortifications is that you can't complete a favor card if one of the tiles has a fortification on it. Now we'll get into ways to get rid of these a little bit later, but something to keep in hand. There's a lot of different pieces to this game. You're also going to have a Taskmaster, which is going to be represented by the meeple, and a score tracker here that's going to go across the scoreboard. Now all of the small figures and even the cards I think are very, very good quality. So even though there's a lot of them, it's not hard to get the grasp of this game. My real problem is with these player mats. These player mats are very thin, and if you can see here, they're already showing signs of being worn. And I'm only the second person to take a look at this, and I've got about 3 sessions on here, but there's actually, it's starting to kind of tear away on the edges. If this was just a little bit thicker, I think we'd have a better product in the end. Now the actual game mats you can see are showing a little bit signs of that wear. Not only that, but if you're an ADD player like myself and really rather kind of OCD, you're going to notice that things don't quite align just because of the sheer size of these cards. I think if they were a little thicker, they'd be a little easier to piece together and you wouldn't have the bowing up like you're seeing in the middle of these tiles. Again, very minor complaint for an overall fantastic game. The game is also going to come with a deck of favor cards. Now these favor cards are basically goals, much like the Ticket to Ride mechanic of the routes, that you'll be trying to accomplish in order while you're building the wall. Now each of these favor cards, once you complete them, are going to give you either bonus victory points, some laborers, buyback tokens, jade, some type of resource that's going to be very beneficial for you throughout the game. They're very thick stock, and they're very nice, very polished, very easy to shuffle. I like these cards. The game is also going to come with a set of 5 cards, one for each color of player. So you can see these are the yellow cards that you would use if you were yellow, the blue cards, and then the green and the kind of burgundy color card for those particular colors. Now each player at the beginning of the game is going to essentially choose a color and then grab the player mat with the associated color and their action cards or their resource cards. I believe they call them role cards in the game. That you'll be basically playing during your action phases. So let's take a look at the role cards. Role cards are going to be cards that you're going to play on your action phase, and each role card has an actual set number of unique abilities that you can do with it. For instance, the Treasurer card's primary objective is going to be to gain you jade, which remember is the primary currency in the game. You can also collect treasure if you meet these criteria. You can send 2 prisoners to separate prisons, and then you can take a treasure from the treasury. Now you notice these role cards have a repeat cost. Now with a buyback token or with the Taskmaster's repeat ability, you can actually pay this and play it again. So normally as you're going through the game on your action phase, I'd play an action, and then you would play an action, and then the next player would play an action until finally it got back to me, and then once this action has been used, I can't go back and use it on my turn. So after I use an action, it's basically going to be used up for the rest of my turn, unless I wanted to use a buyback in order to get it back into my hand. Now I can play up to 3 actions in my turn. So that being said, there's the Treasurer. The next is going to be the Recruiter. The basic ability for the Recruiter is going to be to get you laborers to get. So first things first is you be able to buy laborers. Now this laborer comes with a chart. So for 1 laborer it would cost you 0 jade, for 2 laborers 1 jade, 3 laborers 2 jade, 4 laborers 4 jade, and 5 laborers finally 6 jade. You also add a prisoner to one of the prisons. This is going to be the actual prison your Taskmaster is located on, but we'll get more of that when we get to the Taskmaster card. The option 2 here, or B, is going to be to trade two laborers for six convicts. And then finally C, to collect all of the convicts that are in the prison. Now, the repeat cost for this card is going to be 1 jade. The next card is going to be the Builder card. Now the Builder card is going to be essentially how you're going to be scoring your points. This allows you to actually build the tiles that you have created and put them out onto the table. So for instance, I can build a wall that I've already created and put it there on the player mat, or I can do 2 walls for 1 jade. So the max you're going to be doing with 1 card ever is going to be 2 walls. The next option here is B, and that's going to be to play a completed favor. So after I've completed a favor card, this is how I'm going to be able to utilize any benefits that are going to come from that. Action C is going to replace 1 built block. This is going to be essentially taking somebody's block that's been built and changing it with my own. You can see the cost to repeat this is going to be 2. The Taskmaster. Now in this game, if you remember, I'm going to have a colored meeple, again, that's going to correspond with what color I am. That meeple is going to be in a certain camp on the board. Let me just focus in on that for a second. So essentially, I'll have my meeple in a camp of my choosing. Now generally, most of the game works with the exception of the governor tiles that I can only build and I can only send things to the game side where my meeple is. So if my Taskmaster is over there on the left side, I can build, I can collect from that prison, but I can't do anything on the right side. And that's where the Taskmaster card itself comes in play. The Taskmaster card allows us to move our Taskmaster to any region. Now a region is going to be divided into those different player mats. It's going to basically build up one section of the wall. And then B, the other option of this card, is essentially a buyback for any other card we've played previously this round, with the additional cost associated with that card. And finally, the planner. The planner is going to be how we actually go through there and we build our block tiles. So essentially, you're going to start out with 0 blocks in your library or in your resource pool. You'll use the planner card to actually create those tiles, and then your builder card to actually play those tiles there on the game board. Option B is to be able to essentially cycle more favor cards in there, either draw 3 and keep 2 or draw 5 and keep 1. And then option C is the ability to remove a fortification token. This game is going to play for 4 players, and it's going to play pretty well. I went through it with my wife, and we both had a good time playing a few turns, and it's very easy to pick up and actually figure out how things are going on. Now the game is going to break down into 3 phases in a round, and the game will end after a player has exhausted all of their tiles or after there are no more governor tiles left in the game. We'll get into governor tiles here in a second. So phase 1 is going to be the income phase. Essentially with the income phase, you're going to collect 3 jade. That's it. Everybody collects 3 jade on their income phase. Now after the first round, you'll have the ability to add jade in the form of favors you've completed from the previous rounds. So if you're good and you can complete a favor in the first round that's going to yield you more jade on the second round, you can then use that and be able to add that to your next turn. So rather than collecting 3, you could potentially collect 4 to 5 to 6 jade in a turn. Phase 2. Phase 2 is a pretty cool mechanic, and it's basically a blind bidding mechanic. So at the beginning of the turn, everybody's going to take all of the jade that they've collected from their resource pool, and they're going to put it in their hands. They're going to then take some of the jade, put it in their right hand, and put it in the middle of the game. Everybody will then reveal the amount of jade they've spent, and essentially what they're doing is they're bidding or they're petitioning the governor for a little favor. Now, this is going to do a few things for you. One, it's going to give you the governor's favor token, which is this big purple guy here. This is going to designate essentially who goes first. Not only that, you're going to be given a governor's tile that you can play free of charge at any time during your turn. Also, you'll get a jade, and I believe you'll get a prisoner as well to be added to your labor pool. Now, you may think, well, why do I want to spend my jade on that? One, basically for position. If I'm going first, I can utilize my strategy before anybody else in the round. We are playing on a limited number of rounds. You're going to get a governor token block for winning the governor's favor. So essentially, how much ever I bid, I get one of these guys. And on my turn, I'll be able to play this block anywhere within the given standards. That's a legal placement, for free. It doesn't cost any units. It doesn't cost any. It doesn't take an action on my turn. It's a free thing. So it's essentially a free block for you to do on somebody else. Now, if you bid all of your jade, and let's say you have 7 in your pile, you bid 7, but I somehow outbid you by 1 point. You don't lose those 7. Those go back into your resource. Only the player who wins the governor token actually has to spend that jade. So let's talk about actually building your wall tokens. So you've already planned and you've created your different tokens. Let's see how much actually it costs to play something. Again, the governor token is always free, but there are some rules to keep in track of. One, I have to play the token or the piece of the wall at the bottom possible level. Meaning if I wanted to play in this column, since there's nothing already right here, it would automatically drop down there. It's a lot like Connect 4 in that sense. If I wanted to get to the second row, I would have to put something or have something already in place in order for that to drop down. This row right here cost 2 laborers or convicts to play. This row cost 4, this row cost 6, and finally the tower cost 8. Now you'll be able to score things depending on how many pieces of your wall sits in each row, makes up each line, and also if you score towers, you'll be able to get bonus points that way. A very quick sheet on the side of the game map is going to be this here tile, and it'll essentially give you the bonus points for each row depending on what your position is after everything is ready to be scored. Another thing to remember in this game is that I can only ever I can only ever play or build 2 pieces of wall during my turn unless I'm going to buy back my build card. So if I have 5 blocks of wall ready and in my camp, I can only play 2 at once, assuming I have the laborers. So if I was going to play something like that, it would cost 2 laborers or convicts for row 1, and then finally another 4 for row 2, being a total of 6 convicts. Or 6 workers, as I'd like to say. Laborers and convicts both equal workers. The only difference is laborers only half die, convicts all of them die in building the wall. It's a very tough job working for this, and I'm assuming this was before they started unionizing. So the final phase of every turn is going to be the action phase, and this is essentially where you take your roll cards and you pick an action to play off of them. The play is going to proceed around the table until until all players have exhausted at the minimum of 3 actions. You can get a buyback a turn, so you can go ahead and bump that up to 4 if you have the resources and able to do it. So that about does it for Island Fortress. This game is a lot of fun, and I think you'll love it. There's a couple things that I really kind of have gripes with, but they're cosmetic and they're very minor, and they really have to do with these game tiles here. They could be easily just a bit thicker to just flatten out and line up a little bit better without being a little catty-cornered. I also have kids, so that's something to be concerned about if you're a family gamer and you're worried about things spilling on these things, on these tiles. I wouldn't want to get these wet because I could think they would just become useless after that. They'd warp so bad. This game, a lot of fun. I definitely give it an easy 7 out of 10. It's something that I think you're going to have a lot of fun times while you're playing. Not only that, you're going to be able to get it on the table and off the table very quickly, so you can get a lot of games in a session if that's your thing. It's something that's easy enough that a lot of people can do and a lot of people can pick it up, but it's difficult enough that it's going to actually require some strategy and some skill to be able to really master it. That's something I look at in every game I play. Is one, is it accessible to a lot of players, and two, is it going to be worth playing over and over again? I'm going to have a sense of accomplishment while I play it, and I think you're going to get that with Island Fortress. So again, check it out. You can pick it up on Cool Stuff Inc. It's definitely going to be worth your time. Bryan Johnson, you've made a heck of a game, and I definitely am glad for having it on the table. You guys are watching Let's Level Up, and we appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at letslevelup.net. Thank you so much, and game on.